indirectly, it is a kind of question in which what we expect is you have to find out the natural frequency of transverse vibrations. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ്, അതായത് ഡയറക്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഇങ്ങനെയും ആവാം. ഷാഫ്റ്റ് വിത്ത് ദ റോട്ടേഴ്സ്, more than one rotor is mounted on the shaft, and you will be asked to find out the natural frequency of transverse vibrations. And in that case, how will you find out? But ms പറയുന്നത് മാത്രം, this ms, that is mass of shaft per unit length, that may be given per unit length. Instead of giving you the total mass per unit length of the shaft, so that may be given, and that is in kilogram, say, per meter. So in this unit you have to substitute, and the total mass of the shaft can be found out from this. Okay, mass of the shaft. See, when this is given, this is what you call is rate of loading. So the rate at which it is loaded, and you can treat this like small ws, not omega, it is small ws. That is your ms into, say, g. So this will be weight per unit length. Weight, remember, it's not omega, so it is weight per unit length. And this can be treated as, this is now Newton per meter. Okay, and suppose you have this value, then this is actually a rate of loading. This is actually a rate of loading on the shaft. In fact, it is the mass per unit length of the shaft itself, but it is in the form of rate of loading, or what you call UDL, uniformly distributed load. So we'll treat like that. So in MOS, we have studied, maybe third semester, you must have studied about uniformly distributed load. Okay, either a fixed beam or a simply supported beam acted upon by number of loads, point loads and uniformly distributed loads, and such cases you must have considered earlier. And from that we will try to find out the static deflection. Those, using those concepts, basically we use some equations. അത് നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്. അപ്പം UDL കൊണ്ട് UDL ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുമ്പം സ്റ്റാറ്റിക് ഡിഫ്ലക്ഷൻ എന്തോ ആയിരിക്കും എന്നുള്ളത്. ഈ എക്സെൻട്രിക് ലോഡിനെല്ലാം കൂടെ നമുക്കൊരു ഇക്വേഷൻ സാധാരണഗതിയിൽ, the static deflection due to the eccentric load, see, due to the eccentric point load W, just consider one load W on a simply supported beam, the static deflection delta is equal to, so what is that equation? W, that is the load, then the distance A square B square. That A is the distance of the load from one support end, and B is the remaining distance out of the span. See, total span means L, which is total span is L, and L is the distance between the two supports. See, the distance between the two supports, see here. So if you consider this, so this is going to be your L span. Okay, this is the total span L, and out of which the distance of W1 from one end, that is A1, and the remaining distance is B1. So that is about the first load. And for the second load, see this W2, second load W2, and that is at a distance of A2 from the left end support and B2 from the right end support. So these distances, so you have to identify. See, why we mark A1, B1, A2, B2 and all, because we want to consider the effect of W1, W2, say W3, etc., acting on the shaft or the beam separately. See, what about the static deflection produced by each load when they act alone on the shaft or the beam? So simply supported beam. Okay, and in that case, what is the static deflection? Say delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, etc. So here the static deflection, for a single eccentric point load. Eccentric means what? Not at the middle. Yesterday we considered WLQ by 48 EI. That static deflection is the maximum static deflection when a simply supported beam is acted upon by a central point load. Here, eccentric point load or eccentric concentrated load. Load is not at the center. Okay, because A1 and B1, if A1 and B1, those distances are the same, then that will be, this will be the original case. Like central load, then W will be the central load. So just consider this case, W A square B square divided by 3, EI. EI is actually called flexural rigidity, the product of E and I, and E is actually Young's modulus of elasticity of the shaft material, or I is the, we know that area moment of inertia of the cross section of the beam or the shaft about its symmetrical axis. So EI 3EIL. Okay, so this is the equation. And in which if you substitute A is equal to L by 2 and B is equal to L by 2 for a central load, you will arrive at the very same equation. Delta is equal to 48, that WL cube by 48 EI. So you will arrive at the same equation which we used yesterday. But in this case, this is for the eccentric one because that L by 2 distribution is not there. See, what we want to find here, this problem is all about finding what natural frequency of what we require is this one. What is that? Natural frequency of transverse vibrations. Transverse vibrations. Okay, and how is it related to the critical speed? Because if this is a shaft with the rotors, then the critical speed is given by the natural frequency of transverse vibrations in RPS, that multiplied by 60 will give you the critical speed of the shaft with the rotor system, shaft rotor system in RPM. MS എന്ന് എഴുതിയിരിക്കുന്നത് ശരിക്കും വെയിറ്റ് WS അത് കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാനാണെങ്കിൽ വെയിറ്റ് small ws ആണ്. Small ws, that means it is the rate of loading due to the mass of the shaft or mass of the beam. So that small ws. Okay. So that one, for that purpose, that is UDL. So that has to be treated as a UDL. So we will write that also before we proceed. So delta, I'll write delta S. See, S stands for the shaft mass this is due to the shaft mass, and which is shaft mass per unit length. And that is taken as a UDL, or the deflection due to a uniformly distributed load. What is that? Small w suffix s, it is ms into g. That delta s is equal to, you must have studied, if it is for a simply supported beam, then that is, and all over, if you have a UDL with w, small ws is the rate of loading, Newton per meter, I mean that is a unit. So then w delta s is equal to 5 by 384. So you can derive it. I mean, you must have derived this relation at the time of studying this topic in MOS. So deflection due to static deflection due to a UDL all over the span on a simply supported beam. Delta, let me denote it by delta S, 5 by 384. Then small w, and let me write this S because it is shaft mass. I mean, here shaft weight per unit length, WS, and L raised to 4, that is a span. L raised to 4 divided by 384. 385 ആണെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് 5 ഉം 384 ഉം കുറച്ചുകൂടെ സിംപ്ലിഫൈ ചെയ്യാം. പക്ഷെ നമ്മൾ ഈ 5 by 384 എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതേ. അപ്പം സിംപ്ലിഫൈ ചെയ്യാറില്ല. 385 ആണെങ്കിൽ കുറെ കൂടെ അത് സിംപ്ലിഫൈ ചെയ്യാലോ. ഇഫ് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എ fixed beam and UDL is acting all over the length, then it is 1 by 384. Means that 5 is not there. ഇതിന്റെ 1/5 വരുള്ളൂ. ഞാൻ ഇന്നലെ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ, ഷാഫ്റ്റ് ഫിക്സ്ഡ് ആകുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഡിഫ്ലക്ഷൻ കുറെ കൂടെ കുറയും, സേഫ്റ്റി കുറച്ചുകൂടെ കൂടുതലാണ്, കൂടുതൽ ഡിഫ്ലക്ഷൻ ഉണ്ടാക്കില്ല ഫിക്സ്ഡ് ബീം ആണെങ്കിൽ, സോ ഫേം. അപ്പൊ അതിന്റെ ആ ഒരു കേസിൽ ഇതിന്റെ ഫ്ലെക്ഷറൽ റിജിഡിറ്റി E/I എന്നാണെങ്കിലും നമുക്ക് ഫിക്സ്ഡ് സപ്പോർട്ട്സ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് അതിൽ അങ്ങനെയാണ് ഫിക്സ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നതെങ്കിൽ ഇതിന്റെ 1/5 വരുള്ളൂ, due to the UDL. So due to the UDL acting over the entire span, the static deflection will be 1/5 of this quantity. അത്ര വരും. അപ്പൊ 5 കട്ട് ചെയ്ത് പോകും. അപ്പൊ എന്ത് വരും? WS L raised to 4 divided by EI. ഒരു കാര്യം പ്രത്യേകം ഓർക്കണം, ഇവിടെ WS സ്മോൾ WS ആയിട്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്, ഇവിടെ ഇട്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് W ക്യാപിറ്റൽ. So that is the point load, and this WS is actually rate of loading, അതായത് ഷാഫ്റ്റ് വെയിറ്റ് പെർ യൂണിറ്റ് ലെങ്ത്. ഇനിയിപ്പോ ഇവിടെ ക്യാപിറ്റൽ WS എന്ന് എഴുതണമെങ്കിൽ ഇൻ സം കേസസ് പീപ്പിൾ ഡു ദാറ്റ്. അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ ഇതിനെ ഇങ്ങനെ ആയിരിക്കും അതിനെ ഇന്റർപ്രറ്റ് ചെയ്യുക. സോ ലെറ്റ് മീ റൈറ്റ് ദാറ്റ് ഓൾസോ. സി ഇറ്റ്സ് 5 by 384. സോ പീപ്പിൾ റൈറ്റ് ലൈക്ക് ദിസ് ഓൾസോ, 384. Then this WS into L, if you multiply by the length, that will become capital WS, means the total weight of the shaft or the beam. Then into that L raised to 3, then divided by EI. So if you find a relation WL cube for this UDL case, then that definitely means that W is the complete shaft mass. Okay, equivalent point load. So that is W suffix S, let me put WS L cube divided by capital W. S L cube divided by 384 EI. 5 is there on the numerator. See this. So this can also be used. So delta S, okay? Delta S. But what we prefer is this one, so just use this one. That is sufficient for us because that distribution is important. You have W1 W2, even though I have done only 2, there can be many, W3, etc. Then UDL, remember UDL due to the shaft weight per unit length that is given. So UDL over the entire span. So complete span, that will be small w suffix s. Okay. Then the deflection now, the deflection due to point load, the deflection will be what? Deflection, corresponding deflection. So deflection static, okay? Static deflection, delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, etc. Okay, and then due to static deflection due to Ws, this static deflection will be delta S. Then there is a formula for finding this natural frequency of transverse vibrations as suggested by Dungerley's method. So let's call it like this, Dungerley or Dungerley's method. So we have Dungerley's method to find out the natural frequency such a case. When you have number of point loads, UDL acting on this, it's an empirical formula that is equal to 1 by Fn1 square plus 1 by Fn2 square plus 1 by Fn3 square and so on. And if you want, you can add the other last one also, that is 1 by Fns square. Okay, that is for the UDL part. See what do we do in this case? So we will consider Fn1, Fn2, Fn3, Fn4, etc. up to say Fns. So that means, so we will consider the case when the shaft is acted upon by each load separately. But W1, W2, W3, W4 okay. ഓരോന്നായിട്ട് ഇതിൽ ഒരുമിച്ചല്ല, ഓരോന്നായിട്ട് ഇതിൽ ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുകയായിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ എത്ര നാച്ചുറൽ ഫ്രീക്വൻസിയിൽ അത് വൈബ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്തേനെ എന്നുള്ളതാണ് Fn1. W1 മാത്രം ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ Fn1, W2 മാത്രം ഷാഫ്റ്റിൽ ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ natural frequency of transverse vibration of the shaft mass system is Fn2. Weight 3 മാത്രം ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ, W3 മാത്രം ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ Fn3. അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ then when all these weights, so when W1 alone acts, the natural frequency is Fn1. When W2 acts alone, then the natural frequency of the system is Fn2, and so on. W3 Fn3, W4 Fn4, and when only the mass of the shaft alone is considered, then Fns. So in different cases you have the natural frequencies of transverse vibration, but when you consider all of them together, then what is the natural frequency of the system? So that is suggested by Dungerley's empirical method. So we can make use of that. This is the equation. And if you simplify this, just I'm not trying to obtain by actually this is obtained by substitution and all and simplification, because Fn basically each one. So this one Fn means, see, Fn1, that means what? Fn1 is 1 by 2 pi root of omega n by 2 pi. So 1 by 2 pi root of g by delta. So in this case g by delta 1. See, the first one. And what about Fn2? Fn2 will be 1 by 2 pi root of g by delta 2. See, what is square root of g by delta 2? That is omega n1. So that is a root of g by delta 1. See, like that. And you know that omega n1 divided by 2 pi, then you will get Fn. Yesterday I clarified the difference between natural frequency, in radian per second and revolution per second, or cycles per second, or hertz. That is Fn. Okay, so here it is Fn. So that's why you write Fn1 is given by this, and Fn2 is given by this, and similarly Fn3. So what could be that? 1 by 2 pi root of g by delta 3. Okay, static deflection when W3 acts alone on the beam. Right. Similarly, what is Fns? Fns. And in that case, so you have 1 by 2 pi root of g by delta s. What is that? Delta s means the static deflection due to the shaft mass, as a uniformly distributed load. When that acts alone on the shaft, then what will be the natural frequency of transverse vibration. So FNS is this one. So if you substitute all these together in this Dungerlei's empirical formula, then you will get Fn, and the simplified version we will write now. Okay, so let's not spend time on that. You will get, if you substitute and then simplify it, you will get a relation like this. See, 1 by 2 pi and the root of g. See, 1 by 2 pi into root of 9.81. So if you make use of that, it will be 0.4985. But this constant, that validity of the constant is there only when you use SI units. The delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, delta S, and all should be in meters. Okay, because g is 9.81. So root of g divided by 2 pi, that has got a numerical value 0.4985. Then divided by, it's after all, it's all simplified, and we have taken the square root of it also. So the square root of this and all. So you'll get 0.4985 divided by square root of. So this will be, like this, divided by square root of, this is a relation. What is that? Delta 1 plus delta 2 plus delta 3. See, I've shown only 2 masses, but there may be many. Plus finally, for the shaft alone, there is a slight change. What is that? Delta S divided by 1.27. You know why this is there? Because that delta S formula is altogether different. What is that? 5 by 384 WS L cube divided by EI. And if you use the rate of loading, it will be 5 by 384 WS L raised to 4 by 384 EI. 5 by 384 WS L raised to 4 divided by EI. And so that is a relation. So Fn is given by this relation. So we will be making use of this one to find out. So a beam of length 10 meter carries 2 loads of mass 200 kg at distances 3 meters from each end together with a central load of mass 1000 kg, 1 ton. Calculate the frequency of transverse vibrations, neglect the mass of the beam, and take I is equal to 109 millimeter raised to 4. That is area moment of inertia, which we require. And E is equal to Young's modulus 205 into 10 to the power of 3. It is not 103. It is 10 raised to 3. Okay, that's a printing error. We know that 205 into 10 to the power of 3 Newton per mm square. Okay, so that's it. So let me write those values over there. The total length is 10 meters. And at distances 3 meters from both ends. So just assume that this is, simply supported. Okay, like this. And here we have, say the end, this end is say A, this end is B, and 10 meters length. And it carries 200 kg mass, 2 in number, 3 meters away from the ends. So total 10 meters. So 3 meters away. So that means, say somewhere here, you have the first mass and corresponding weight I am showing over here. So say W1, and the other load is somewhere here. And this is W2, and schematic diagrams are important. And W1 is equal to M1G, and that is equal to 200 kg multiplied by 200 kg multiplied by 9.81. Okay, so you'll get a value. So you'll get 1962 Newton. And in fact, the same value. So you have the other one also. Other one means W2. See, that is also same because 200 kg mass. So you have 200 into 9.81. And that is equal to 1962. So please verify the calculations. Okay, so W1 and W2. And the length and all, that is given length here. We have 3 meters, 3 meters. So the distances, this is 3 meter. And this is also 3 meter. So that naturally means the distance between the supports here, the total length, the span of the beam. So that is 10 meters. So this is 10 meters. Total is 10 meters. And this is 3 meters. So therefore, 3 plus 3, 6. 10 minus 6, the remaining distance is 4 meters. So we will do one thing now. It has a central load also. Central load of 1000 kg. Okay, 1000 kg mass is here. and corresponding weight. So we will note it as W3. And here we have W3 also. So W3 is equal to what? M3G. And that mass, the central load that has maximum mass 1000 multiplied by 9.81. And so what do you get? So that is 1000 into this. So 9810 Newton. That is the maximum one. And that is the central load. So it's given that is at the center. So we have no confusion here in marking this distance, that is 5 meters. Okay. So this is 5 meters. And now neglect the mass of the beam. So if the mass of the beam has to be considered, then we have to treat it as a UDL. So otherwise, these three are the loads. And then one more important part, that is area moment of inertia. That is also provided. I is equal to 109 millimeter raised to 4. So remember, it is millimeter raised to 4. And if you want in millimeters, and you can see one way of solving this problem is you can continue with the distances in millimeters. Because Young's modulus is given as 205 gigapascal it is actually, but 10 in Newton per mm square. So it is 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. And if you want to convert into meters, there's no problem. See, 205 into, 10 raised to 3 into 10 raised to 6. 10 raised to 3 into 10 raised to 6. So it is 10 raised to 9 Newton per meter square or Pascal. So SI unit, if you want to convert, then 205 into 10 raised to 9 or 2.05 into 10 raised to 11 Newton per meter square or Pascal. And this one, the I also, in that case, you can convert I also. So if you want, you can convert I. See, I is 109 millimeter raised to 4. But please be very careful. Millimeter raised to 4 is a small quantity compared to meter raised to 4. So if you want to convert, meter into millimeter, 1 meter is 1000 millimeters, and 1 millimeter is 1 by 1000 of a meter. Therefore, millimeter raised to 4 it is. See, so you have to be very careful. So 109, so the value will be negligible in meter raised to 4. So it is what is that? So 10 raised to, it is 10 raised to minus 3 raised to 4. So it is 10 raised to minus 12, and that much meter raised to 4. See, when you convert this into meter raised to 4, you have to be very careful. So 109 millimeter raised to 4. 1 millimeter raised to 4 is 10 raised to minus 12 meter raised to 4. I'll just tell you that logic only, because that's very, very simple for you to understand this one. And we will now find out the static deflection due to each of this. Actually, there is a method called, what is it? In the morning, I told you, this is Dungerlei's method. And if you follow that, 1 by Fn square is equal to, see, we are not going to use it, but just for the sake of completeness, just I'll write that Fn1, and here we have 3 loads. So the natural frequency of the beam under the impact of, or under the action of each of these loads, W1, W2, W3 will be separately found out. So that is Fn1, Fn2, and Fn3. And how to get the natural frequency of the beam when all these loads are acting together? So that is Fn. So 1 by Fn square is equal to 1 by Fn1 square plus 1 by Fn2 square, okay, plus 1 by Fn3 square. That's all. And here we are asked to neglect the mass. Otherwise, we will treat that also. Okay, frequency, natural frequency of transverse vibrations in this case due to the self weight of the beam. Okay, so here it is 3 cases only. And this one, when you simplify and all, you do all these simplifications, so you will get like this one, Fn. So we are interested in using that equation straight away. Okay, so that's very simple, but please try to understand. Fn is equal to 0.4985. This I told you during the morning session. So 0.4985, in fact, that is actually 1 by 2 pi into root of 9.81. If you calculate, you will get 0.4985. Then that divided by, you have a simple equation. What is that? Under root of delta 1 plus delta 2 plus delta 3, etc. And if you have delta 4, etc., and if you have the static deflection due to the self mass or the mass of the beam, or say weight of the beam as a UDL, in that case, one more term will come in the denominator, plus delta S by 1.27. See, that you should remember. See, I have written, this, I have given you these equations already, explained. Okay, but in our case, this is the case. I mean, this is the equation. So, okay, so please, you can do that. But now, what about delta 1, delta 2, and delta 3? See, for delta 1, see, let me use the same diagram, but don't get confused. See, for delta 1, you will consider the static deflection due to W1 alone. So, in that case, this is your, see, the distance of the load W1 from both the ends. ബോത്ത് എൻഡ്സ് നമുക്ക് ഈ രണ്ട് എൻഡിൽ നിന്നും എന്നും ബി നിന്നും ഈ W1 ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ് എടുക്കുന്നു. അത് നമുക്ക് A1 എന്നും ആൻഡ് മറ്റേ ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ് രണ്ടാമത്തെ ഡിസ്റ്റൻസിന് നമുക്ക് ഞാൻ താഴെ മാർക്ക് ചെയ്യാണ് B1 എന്ന് എടുക്കുന്നു. ഓക്കെ, സോ ദിസ് ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ്, സോ ദിസ് ഈസ് യുവർ A1. ഡോണ്ട് ഗെറ്റ് കൺഫ്യൂസ്ഡ്. ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ് ഓഫ് W1 ഫ്രം ബോത്ത് ദ എൻഡ്സ്. സോ A1 ആൻഡ് B1. സിമിലർലി നമുക്ക് അടുത്ത W3 ഈ സെൻട്രൽ ലോഡ് ആണ്. അപ്പൊ അത് വേണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ സെൻട്രൽ ലോഡിന് ഡ്യൂ ടു സെൻട്രൽ ലോഡ് ദ സ്റ്റാറ്റിക് ഡിഫ്ലക്ഷൻ WLQ/48 EI എന്നുള്ളത് ഡയറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് വേണമെങ്കിൽ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇത് തന്നെ വേണമെങ്കിൽ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം, കാരണം ഇതൊരു കോമൺ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോമിൽ പോട്ടെ. ആൻഡ് ദിസ് ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ്, സി, ഇതിന് W3 ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ് A3 ആൻഡ് ദി അതർ ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ് മറ്റേ സൈഡിലേക്കുള്ള ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ് ഇവിടെ, സി, ദിസ് ഈസ് വാട്ട് ഈസ് ഇറ്റ്, B3. ആൻഡ് സിമിലർലി ഞാനിപ്പം ഇവിടെ താഴത്തേക്ക് കാണിച്ചേക്കാം ദിസ് W2 വരെയുള്ള ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ്. അപ്പം അത് ഞാൻ താഴേക്ക് മാർക്ക് ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, സി ദിസ്, സി ഐ വിൽ ഷോ ദിസ് ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ് ഓഫ് W3 ഫ്രം ദ പോയിന്റ് ലോഡ് W3 ഫ്രം ലെഫ്റ്റ് എൻഡ് ഇത്രയും. സി ദിസ് ഡിസ്റ്റൻസ് ഈസ് distance of W2 from the left end, that is A2, and distance of W2 from the right end, that is B2. So you have to find out these distances, and easily you can find out because A1 is this 3 meters, and what is B1? 10 minus 3, the entire remaining distance. 10 is the total span, and 10 minus 3, that is 7. So A1 is equal to, see here, if I write here, I'll give you in writing, A1 is equal to 3 meters, and B1 is equal to 7 meters. And what about A2 and B2? So what about A2? And A2 is distance of W2 from the left end. So that is again, that is W2 from the left end. So it is 3 plus 4. That is 7 meters. A2 and B2 is equal to 3 meters. Because 10 minus 7. And what about A3? That is central. A3, that is at the center. W3, that is at the center. So 5 meters from either side. Okay, so this is, see, this one, 5 meters. So A3 is equal to 5 meters and B3 is also 5 meters. So please use these distances. And I'll give you the equations and you can straight away substitute and find out, okay? So that is my intention. And the final equation which you have to make use of in this case is this one, okay? It's given by these equations. And finally, the simplified form is this one. And Fn is equal to, see now, what you should do is delta 1, let me write that only. Delta 1 is W A square W1, static deflection due to W1 alone on the simply supported beam. W1 is an eccentric load. A1 is 3 meters and B1 is 7 meters. So A1 square, B1 square divided by 3 times EI into L. And what is L? Is your A1 plus B1, the total distance actually, that which of course in every case A2 plus B2, A3 plus B3, and in all these cases total span of the beam 10 meters. Okay, so that's it. And now, so you will get this one. So make use of this and try to find out delta 1. Now delta 2, what is delta 2? So it will be W2, that is the load, but it must be in Newton, not the mass in kg. So we have found out already. So W2 into A2 square into B2 square divided by 3 times Young's modulus into area moment of inertia of cross section of the beam into the total length of the beam. That's the span of the beam, which is 10 meters. Okay, and A2 and B2, of course, you know. And A2 is 7 meters and B2 is 3 meters. Just opposite to that of A1 and B1. So you can verify and find out. And delta 3. So this is delta 2. And now delta 3. So what is delta 3? It is W3 into A3 square into B3 square divided by 3 times EIL. So A3 and B3. In fact, this is, this will lead to the equation. Actually, it is W3 into this is L cube divided by 48 EI because it's a central load. I think W3, that is a central load. of 9810 Newton. So we have found out that actually this is a central load case, simply supported beam with a central load W3L cube divided by 40 ITI. So it is equivalent to that. Okay, so this is actually the equation for the static deflection due to central load, point load or concentrated load on the beam. Okay, so once you have a central load, and this is a strategy. Okay, so you can easily find out this, and now it's a matter of substitution and the calculation. Delta 1, delta 2, delta 3. After finding that, you substitute over here and you will get frequency in hertz. But when you substitute over here, make sure that you substitute delta 1, delta 2, delta 3 in meters, not in millimeters. It won't work because 0.4985, that is 1 by 2 pi into root of 9.81. That numerical value we arrived at when we substitute G in meter per second square or SI unit. So what I want to say is delta 1, delta 2, delta 3 must be in meters, not in millimeters. So it is better that you convert Young's modulus and area moment of inertia of the cross section of the beam and all in SI units. Okay, so you can, now you can find out Fn. Okay, that's all. That's all about this question. But one important thing, what I want to stress upon, that is in this case, this is a case where this is having, see, the earlier question is having 5 marks and this is having 10 marks. So you know why? Because here, along with the loads, see, you have 2 rotors. See, let me tell you that, but I think you can solve it. You can easily solve it in the similar to the one, and I have drawn a diagram just for symbolically representing it. That's all. A shaft 1.5 meter long, supported in flexible bearings at ends, which you can of course treat as a simply supported beam, and it carries 2 wheels, each of 50 kg mass. See, like this. So you have 2 wheels, and that has mass of 50 kg. Of course, you can find out the weight. W is equal to mass into acceleration due to gravity. You'll get weight in newtons. Okay, so the 2 loads identical, and which of course, see, what I can do is I can mark this as say W1, and this is W2, and W1 is equal to W2, and which is equal to mass M into G. That mass, mass is not mass of the shaft, but here it is the mass of the wheels or the rotors mounted on the shaft. So here we have mass is 50 kg multiplied by 9.81 meter per second square. 50 kg multiplied by 9.81 will give you your so it's around, I think it is 490.5 and that much Newton. So your W1 and W2, both the wheels have the same weight. Okay, and now important point is one wheel is situated at the center of the shaft. See, one wheel here, W2 is placed at the center, and the total length is 1.5 meter. See, 1.5 meter means from the center. So we have towards either side, we have half of 1.5, that is 0.75 meters, and here also 0.75 meters. And now the second mass is attached to where? So where we will mount the second wheel, it is at a distance of 375 mm, that is 0.375 mm from the center towards the left. See, from the center towards the left, 375 mm, that is 0.375 meter. So that is W1. And so we got the distances, in fact. So in short, we have the distances ready, that's all. And 0.75 is actually the double of 0.375, is twice 0.375. So this is also 0.375. Okay, so that you can understand easily. Okay, so the distances have been marked. So naturally the distance now, the distance from W1, this I want to designate it by A1, and this I want to designate by B1. You know why? Because the distance of W1 from both support ends, and distance of W2 from both support ends. So that is, this is my A2 and this is my B2. Okay, and here A1 and A1, what is that? 0.375. See, A1, see this A1 here is 0.375 meters, and B1 is equal to, see, it is 1.5 minus that 0.375. So you can calculate, and of course you can write that is 1.125 meters. Okay, so please verify this A1, B1, A2, B2, and in fact W2 is a central load now. And in this case, since have the weightage, more weightage, and here the mass you cannot neglect, and you have to consider the mass of the shaft also. And moreover, an additional problem is this shaft is hollow. See, very important, the shaft is hollow. Okay, so shaft is hollow in the sense, so if you take a cross section, you know that, and I'm just magnifying it, let's say, you know, as per the original, this diagram, say if I show like this symbolically, so you have, see this. So what I mean to say is it has a hollow portion inside. See this is inside and this one is outside. So you have a hollow shaft and inside diameter, say di, outside diameter is do. Okay, and so what is given? See the hollow shaft, external diameter 75, external diameter is 75 mm, and which of course is 0.075 meter. Okay, and inside diameter is 40 mm, and that you'll get divided by 1000, 0.04 meter. Okay, and what is the area of cross section? What is the area of cross section? A is equal to pi by 4 into outer diameter square minus inner diameter square. So you can find out the area, and area in square meters. Okay, so we'll get it. Area of cross section. See, what is the volume of the shaft? Volume of the material, since it's hollow. So volume of the shaft, if you want to find out volume of the shaft, so that is area of cross section into length, or in other words pi by 4 d square, which is of course, you know, area of cross section multiplied by the length. Okay, so that is this area multiplied by the length, and that much what is that? Meter cube, and that is the volume of the shaft. So why do we require volume? Because the density of the shaft material is given 7700. So density rho, so let me write density rho is equal to 7700 kilogram per meter cube. Okay, so once you have the density, mass, you can find out mass of the shaft. See, please listen carefully. Mass of the shaft, you know, so that is, let me write this as, say, M. Yes, mass of the shaft per unit length I want to write. That's why I written capital M suffix S. So that is volume into density. Volume into density, that is rho. So what is volume? Volume is area into length into rho. Okay, and that much kg, that is a mass. What is it? Mass of the shaft. But we will treat this as you know, mass per unit length. Mass per unit length, because the rate of loading, we want to treat this as a UDL. So we want to treat this as a UDL. That is important. So weight of the shaft, you know, that is capital WS. Let me write that. And that is mass of the shaft multiplied by acceleration due to gravity. Mass of the shaft, actually your mass of the shaft ms multiplied by acceleration due to gravity, and that much that much Newton. Okay, so here, see, be very careful about the units. I'm just clarifying things because you should not be confused. Okay, ms into g. But what we require essentially is the rate of weight, or rather, you know, better word is weight per unit length. So that's important. That is the rate of loading, or UDL, weight of shaft per unit length. Weight of shaft per unit length. How do we find it out? This weight, you know, WS divided by L. So that is what? MS into G divided by L. And what is MS? MS is, see, I have written over here, area into volume into density. That is A into L into rho divided by L. So L and L will be cancelled. And what is weight of shaft per unit length? Let me write small w suffix s. And this is, see, this is nothing but L and L will be cancelled. So area of cross section into rho. So let me tell you very clearly, and this is the equation you have to make use of. What is that? Area of cross section. What is that? Pi by 4 into outer diameter square minus inner diameter square, that is area of cross section, multiplied by the density. Okay, so in short, what I want to tell you is that this is what you take is pi by 4 into outer diameter square. Outer diameter, it is 0.075 mm. Okay, 75 square minus inner diameter 40 mm, 0.04 meter, that's squared, and then multiplied by the density in kilogram per meter cube, that is 7,700. 7,700, but one letter is missing now. See the weight, mass only I have written, then into G is also there. See, please bear with me. There is MS I have written, into G is also there. Okay, into G, that is also there. So please do understand. Okay, don't get confused. I'm just clarifying things, that's all. And this, what you get is the weight of shaft per unit length, that is WS, and this has to be treated as a UDL, uniformly distributed load. That's very important. Okay, and UDL, and so the area of cross section multiplied by the density multiplied by, see, that will be the mass per unit length. Okay, if you take area into rho alone, then that is mass per unit length. Then into G, that will be weight per unit length, that is WS. So area of cross section of the shaft, pi by 4 into 0.075 square minus 0.04 square multiplied by density 7,700 kilogram per meter cube multiplied by now acceleration due to gravity, that is 9.81. Okay, so once you do this, so you will get the weight of shaft per unit length. So what is weight of shaft per unit length? You calculate in this small ws. Okay, so you will get the value, that answer is in Newton per meter. Okay, that's important. And this is one important idea in this case, and that's why I told you. Now the static deflections we will consider. And here, along with that, you will treat a UDL also. So a UDL will be acting all over this. See this? And just like the problem in mechanics of solids, I am considering this. So this is actually a UDL all over the span, over the entire span. And that UDL, that is WS. And that much what? That much Newton per meter length. Newton per meter length. Okay. The other loads, W1, capital W1 and W2, they are in newtons. Okay, but this case, this is actually UDL. Okay, and don't get confused. So uniformly distributed load, treating mass per unit length of the shaft as small m suffix s multiplied by G, that is small w suffix s, that is weight per unit length of the shaft in Newton per meter, that has to be treated as a UDL. How do you find it out? Area of cross section of the shaft into density into acceleration due to gravity. So you'll get the weight of shaft per unit length, and this has to be essentially treated as a UDL. Now we have three loads, W1, W2 and the UDL, and because of that, individually you have to consider each one and find out static deflection. And delta 1, delta 1 is that it is the static deflection due to W1 alone. Okay, and delta 2, see, I am not going to write all the terms, but just I'll clarify the static deflection due to what? W2 alone when it acts on the designated place. And delta 3, that is the static deflection due to what? Static deflection due to small ws alone. Okay, and now the question is, how do you find out delta 1? See, delta 1 is being concentric load acting on the simply supported beam, that is a point load. So delta 1 is W1 A1 square B1 square divided by 3EIL. So please use proper SI units. And what about delta 2? Delta 2 is again a point load, a concentrated load, and acting at distance A2 from the left end and B2 from the right end on the simply supported beam. And delta 2 is equal to W2 into A2 square into B2 square divided by 3EIL. Okay, where L here is 1.5 meters. Okay, and what about delta 3? See that you have to be very careful in delta 3 because that is due to the UDL acting all over the span. So whenever a UDL which in this case is whenever you have a UDL, which in this case is weight per unit length of the shaft, static deflection due to that will be 5 by 384. Yesterday we have discussed this. 5 by 384. W, small ws, L raised to 4, that's important, divided by denominator we have E into I. Other than 5 by 384, see we have 5 by 384 into Ws, L raised to 4 divided by E into I. The product of E and I, modulus of elasticity and area moment of inertia of the cross section of the shaft, that is actually called flexural rigidity. Okay, that product. Okay, so delta 3 is this one, and you find out all these three, that's all. And finally, what you do is Fn, you have to find out the natural frequency of torsional vibrations. So in this case, you have to find out the lowest whirling speed, take into account the mass of the shaft. See the whirling speed. What do you know about whirling speed? Whirling speed and this natural frequency of transverse vibration, they are related. So you will find out Fn first, and that is actually in hertz, or what you can write is revolution per second. Okay, so Fn is in hertz. That also represents the revolution per second, and that multiplied by 60 will give you the revolution per minute. So in fact, when you take Fn into 60, that will give you the whirling speed actually. Okay, so the whirling speed is equal to in revolution per second, it is equal to the natural frequency of transverse vibrations of the shaft with the two rotors in this case. Of course, you have to consider the mass of the shaft also. So Fn is equal to our equation, and you know very well this is equal to 0.4985 in this case, divided by square root of delta 1 plus delta 2 and plus delta 3. There is a problem because it is due to the self weight, and that case there is a correction there. Delta 3 divided by 1.27. So whenever you consider delta 3 is actually delta S. See, let me write that. So instead of delta 3, so I'll avoid the confusion. This is delta S due to the self weight, and that has got some difference in the equation. So what is that? This is delta S by 1.27. Okay, so this is it. And of course, this is obtained by simplifying the Dungerley's empirical equation, which we can use for finding the natural frequency of transverse vibration of the shafts when number of weights are acting on the shaft. So when you have multiple loads on the shaft, we can find out the natural frequency of transverse vibration in such a case by using Dungerley's empirical formula. And when you simplify that, you will get this equation. Fn is equal to 0.04985 divided by square root of delta 1 plus delta 2 plus delta S by 1.27. Remember, we have only 3 loads here, 2 point loads, W1, W2, and corresponding static deflections, delta 1, delta 2. When those loads act alone on the shaft, we have delta 1 and delta 2 are respectively the static deflections, and delta S is the static deflection of the given beam when you consider the weight per unit length acting on the beam or the shaft as a UDL. Okay, so in that case, this is that equation. And when now the critical speed, so that ultimately you have to find out. So the critical speed, so we know that so it's given in the question that the smallest critical speed or primary critical speed, that of course is obtained by the following expression. What is that critical speed? So I'll write in RPM. Okay, so NS. So what you can write is this Fn, multiplied by simply 60. So Fn is in RPS, or cycles per second or hertz, multiplied by 60. So we'll get the value in RPM. Okay, so this is this one. So this is the answer to the question. So N critical. So let me write rather than NS, so I'll write N critical. I think we have written NCR. Okay, N critical. So that is obtained by Fn multiplied by 60. So it is basically a question for finding the natural frequency of transverse vibrations, obtain that in hertz and then multiply by 60, you will get a revolution per minute. That of course is equal to the primary critical speed or whirling speed of the shaft with the rotors given. Of course, we have considered the mass per unit length of the shaft, and from that we found out the weight per unit length of the shaft. That has been taken as the UDL, and static deflection due to the self weight of the beam or the shaft as a UDL has also been considered in this case.